A warm welcome for those attending and our viewers watching live on the Council YouTube channel, Hillingdon for London. My name is Councillor Henry Higgins and I'm chairing this meeting tonight. Forgive me, I do have a slight cough, so if I start coughing, you'll have to just bear with me. Details of business are to be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are accessible in the room and under the live broadcast. For those presenting in the room and intending to speak, please note that you are filmed and any statement you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anyone speaking today that your voice will only be audible if you switched on the light on the microphone. We're not expecting a fire alarm, so if one does go off, please follow the officers out of the building. If you have a mobile or tablet device, can you please switch it to silent or turn it off? You might notice that some committee members will be using computers. Otherwise, you have copies of the paper agenda at the back of the room. Those attending tonight are councillors present. First is Councillor Adam Bennett, my Vice Chairman. Welcome. Councillor Darren Davis, Councillor Roy Chandel, Councillor Sansapuri, Councillor Gerlich, and Councillor Singh. Welcome all of you to the committee. My officers today are Kate Crosby, Area Planning Service Manager North, Chris Brady, Planning Team Leader, Dr. Alan Tilley, Transport Planning and Development Team Manager, Jimmy Walsh, my legal, Natalie Fairclough, another legal. You can never have enough attorneys. They're brilliant. Okay, and Natasha, Anisha. See, already my head's gone. Anisha, thank you. She's my Democratic leader, and Ros Johnson is my head of planning and general. She's important, don't worry. And obviously there's another one here, Pedro Brizio, welcome. And he has supported England, actually. That was really good as well. So that was really good. So anyway, well, that's who's tending. So before we get on to the agenda, we go through apologies for absence.
Thanks, Chair. Apologies received from Councillor Burrows with Councillor Davis substituting. Apologies also received from Councillor Mand with Councillor Sansapuri substituting.
Welcome both of you. Thank you very much. I'd just like to say a warm wishes to Keith Burrows. I know he's not very well and we wish him to get recovered as soon as possible. A declaration of interest in matters becoming before this meeting, anybody? No? Okay, that's great. Can we receive the minutes of the previous meetings? Do you agree to those? Agreed? Okay, thank you. Matters that have been notified in advance or urgent, there are none. Confirm that items in business are marked 1 and we're not to consider anything in part 2. I know there is a typo on one of the agendas that says it's a part 2 item, but it isn't. Right, all part 1. Right, so we've done all the checks and balances, so now we go straight to the first item on the agenda, which is the Civic Centre Uxbridge. We will take 7 and 8 together. Obviously we'll need 2 votes when we vote, whatever we vote to decide with it. So, Pedro, whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, everyone. So this is items 6 and 7 for the Civic Centre. 2 applications. One of them is for the change of use, and one of them is for the listed building consent. So the first application, number 956, is in connection to the change of use of the Middlesex suite and the registrar's office, levels 1 and 2 within the Civic Centre from office to F1, learning and non-residential institutions, to accommodate a new public library and a museum. The application involves minor internal and external alterations to the listed building. The last part of the presentation, we will present some details with regards to the listed building. This is application 1410 for alterations to the existing covered walkway between the corporate entrance and the public library. So this slide shows the site location plan of the change of use application, where the proposed library will be positioned at the southeast side of the site within the civic complex. The building is grade 2 listed, located within the Uxbridge High Street, between the Uxbridge High Street and the Hillingdon Road, towards the east and the south sides. The building contains parking at lower ground floor, which is accessed through the High Street. The site plan also shows the Civic Square, which opens up onto Oxbridge High Street towards the north west sides of the site. Just as background as well, information as part of the planning application, we received amendments in May, end of May 2024. Basically, just in connection to the uplift of F1 floor space. So the description of the development was revised to incorporate the registrar's office. The additional floor space was increased by 816 square meters, and reconsultations were sent to residents and to take a more holistic approach as well, and include external alterations to the entrance as part of the listed building consent. So these are some photos of the building with the main entrance at the left-hand side, which leads to the Middlesex suite through a covered walkway, which you can see at the right-hand side. The right-hand side, that photo also shows the staircase within the covered walkway. The building is only listed externally, and the key external features are the brickwork and the hard standing that you can see from the photos as key architectural features of the building. The covered walkway is accessible from the public square, either by stairs or a ramp, and is therefore a key element when understanding the public character of the building. These are some photos of the internal condition of the proposed space for the public library. Works are still ongoing and seek to reinstate the original openings and open plan layout and to refurbish the high ceilings of the space. To the right, you can see the main entrance to what will be the public library, and the external works as well to upgrade this space to make it more welcoming, which will be dealt as part of the listed building consent. This is the existing floor plan of level 1, but this is for the registrar's office and what will be space for accommodating that registrar's office. At the moment, this space is used as an office floor space and contains interviews rooms and a kitchen and some housing needs office floor space. The space will be refurbished to accommodate that new registrar's office. This also is the existing floor plan for the corporate entrance, and the internal works as part of the proposals also include some changes to the layout to refurbish the space, as this will be directly linked to the covered walkway at the right-hand side of the building. And this is the existing floor plan for the second floor. The upper section of that floor plan shows the registrar's office, which will be relocated to the first floor. The internal partitions as well will be removed to bring back the original plan form of the listed building. Another element to note is the top left-hand side of the plan, which shows the main entrance to what will be the main the public library, which will be refurbished as part of the external works. So this is a proposed first floor plan, which shows the registrar's office in light green and the proposed small bio library in pink, with an entrance to the servicing area towards the east side. The orange lines show the different step-free access routes from the high street at first floor level, which will lead also to a lift shown in dark pink that could provide access to the second floor with accessible parking at the east-hand side. The proposed level 2 shows the link between the corporate entrance and the left At the left, and the proposed library, with step-free access through the existing ramps, which are shown also in orange. As part of the amendments, the F1 floor space was uplifted in capacity from 1,820 square meters to 2,636 square meters. The revised plans also include a new community floor space, such as a public space for a museum, which is shown in green at the right-hand side, a study area at the top left-hand side, and exhibitions areas as well. This is a more detailed plan for the proposed refurbishment works for the corporate entrance, which now would be linked to the library, and the works include accommodating a new multi-purpose space, which is shown in yellow, new toilets and better circulation spaces to link the different elements of the building. The proposed floor plan for level 1 as well, this is a more detailed representation with the registrar's office in green and the mobile library, which is proposed in pink. The mobile library will provide services to people with special needs that are unable to access the public library and would be linked to the main library through a lift, which is shown at the top of the floor plan. And this is the proposed second floor, which shows the proposed public library, the museum, shown in green, and other community facilities. The space includes study desk areas, meeting rooms, a children's library, and learning centers. And as you can see from the layout, this is mainly formed by a single room that will be step-free, and also with step-free access that will be provided through the existing ramps fronting the building. And there would also be an alternative step-free access at first floor with access to a lift. The space is acceptable as discussed with design and conservation officers, access officers, and the highways team in terms of size and quality, as it would remain the largest library within the borough, and the internal alterations would also provide good forms of illumination and visual outlook. As part of the amendments as well, this space was reviewed in terms of accessibility, and you can see access through the lifts that would connect the first and second floor levels, and also enhanced, improved access points for accommodating wheelchair access at second floor. Also, as part of the amendments, it's worth noting that a disabled parking base will be allocated at first and second floor levels, which would serve the public library and the registrar's office. So again, we go at the moment now to the listed building consent, and this is the existing floor plan that shows the site location of the proposed works for the listed building consent. The photos here show the existing condition of the covered walkway. The doors at the left-hand side will be replaced with new sliding doors and glazing, and the window openings at the right-hand side, which overlook the internal courtyard, would be enclosed with matching glazing. This works would seek to upgrade the entrance to the library and make it more welcoming. This, again, is an existing floor plan that shows for the listed building consent, which shows the walkway at the top left-hand side with the staircase, which would be upgraded as part of the external alterations. This slide shows the position of the proposed double glazing to enclose the entrance, which have been agreed with the Council's design and conservation team. Overall, the external works are considered minor, as they will be set back from the principal elevations of the listed building. They will not be really visible from the public realm, and will consider high quality materials that will complement the original features of the building. This slide shows the aluminium glazing and entrances that will be replaced, replacing the doors to access the public library. Finally, the listed building includes the introduction of individual letters to announce the library and the museum, which will be externally illuminated and will be installed in bronze material. This would face the civic square with also a new signage on the entrance as shown in the lower left-hand side. So this is a CGI of showing how the main elevation of the building with the proposed signage would look. This are considered acceptable under a heritage and design point of view. And this is basically the application, the presentation for both applications. After the committee report was published as well, a briefing note was prepared, just removing a condition restricting the opening hours of the public library, and also a new condition has been added just to include some security measures such as CCTV and lighting to minimize any risk of antisocial behavior. And also, as part of the addendum, 2 additional signatures were added to the e-petition since the committee report was published. So this is basically the presentation for both applications, and thank you. Any questions? No.
Thank you, Pedro. Okay, now we go to the petitioner, Paul Hanscombe. Come on down, just there. You have 5 minutes, sir. You have, sorry, 10. You have, sorry, yeah, I forgot. I allow 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes, sir. I don't know how it's going to be then. It's going to be 9 minutes on green, is it? So 9 minutes on green, 1 minute on amber, and red. I will stop you. Okay. Whenever you're ready. As soon as you turn the light on, the time will start.
This application provides insufficient data to justify itself as the library and community hub which the current library is. There are omissions and critical aspects that have not been considered. These prohibit accurate assessment. The revised plan has an area similar to that of 22 High Street, used for the library between 1974 to 1987. Since that time, the catchment population has increased by 60%. There are therefore significant constraints and reductions which conflict with the Council's objective for facility relocation, which is that the new facility will deliver services equal to or better than that at the existing site. This requirement is alluded to in the report, but is not addressed in a quantitative manner to allow the committee to objectively assess this plan. It would be expected that the plan or report will provide a list of the resource requirements typically existing against plans. This would allow members to assess whether these reductions are reasonable considering the financial constraints the Council is under. This approach is standard business practice, i.e., will the outcome meet the requirements and expectations placed on it? We have previously supplied such a list as an aid. There is grave concern that the lack of data hides the impact of this move, which conflicts with the Council's endeavour to work an open process. As an example, the book shelving shown in the plan for the Children's Library is much less, at about 30%. We would expect this process to have demonstrated that the plan can provide adequate space to support a children's library, and for this to be reviewed by the committee to ensure that the plan is viable. The same reasoning applies to all the requirements the library is expected to provide. The reason we went from the previous plan to this is because it was easy to show it was inadequate to support the demands and expectations. This plan should similarly be tested. It is important to residents and the Council that this move works. The archive search room is a new addition on this plan. It currently offers an unworkable space for current activities because it is about 30% of the existing space. It doesn't allow enough space for the microfiche reader, large table to support Uxbridge Gazette volumes and maps, etc., 2 visiting researchers, the archivist and volunteer. Another council aim is for any facility moved to improve the health and safety for those with disabilities. We have heard from many residents that believe the opposite is true of this proposed move. Accessibility is key to many residents and is a common gripe about the move. The report accepts the ramp do not comply with existing building regulations and cites the listed status as being sufficient reasons to not make any modifications. It is considered unlikely that any disability is going to be modified by the listed status of the site. It is appreciated that when the regulation was introduced, exceptions for compliance were made for existing public buildings where pre-existing use had precedence. However, the regulation also states that for a material change of use, that part itself should comply with access and use requirements. This section of the regulation doesn't have any exception exclusions. This is common sense to ensure all that wish to enter the public institution are free to do so. This planning application is for a change of use, and so the regulation should be complied with. This requirement for free access for all is written into the Public Libraries and Museums Act of 1964. It is considered that the ramp leading to the lift is out of general sight lines and could be modified and fitted with handrails without a major incursion into the listed status, using the same logic used for the planning applications for the covered walkways. The steps on this route also require a handrail, as these should be provided on both sides. The regulation proposes an appropriate balance should be found between conservation and accessibility. None has been proposed. None. The proportion of people with a long-term health condition or disability in Hillingdon is given as 14%. It is not just a limited number of people with disabilities. As we age, mobility decreases, and so accessibility is key. The lift on this route doesn't meet current accessibility requirements for wheelchairs. To improve accessibility, signage is proposed. The visually impaired reading group have pointed out this won't help their guide dogs. Due to the reduction in charities in recent years, the number of people training guide dogs has decreased, and so the number of trainers available to retrain dogs has also decreased. VIP were highly dubious about the availability of a trainer to retrain their dogs. They are just one of the groups with sight impairment that use the library. In 2020, the RNIB sight loss data showed that in Hillingdon the number of people registered as blind or partially sighted was 1,505. The number estimated to be living with sight loss was 8,180. They and other groups have made representation to the council, but they feel their issues have not been addressed and this move will affect them. Both the visually impaired group and working age Parkinson group consider this move will result in a membership dropout by as much as 50%. This leads to social isolation and ill health. It is disappointing that none of the groups we have met has been spoken or listened to. The working age Parkinson group have stated that they find getting to the current library from the tube station is a challenge, and they have lost members because of it. The additional distance to the civic centre and accessibility is expected to reduce membership further. The library is more than the library. It is a community hub seen by many as our village hall. It is the only such public resource in Uxbridge. The report doesn't consider the impact on these community events, nor the effect of the plan on classes or the events that are currently held in the library. They matter to residents. This plan should have been presented to a fire officer for an initial assessment prior to the submission of the planning application, describing how the various parts of the building are to be used with expected numbers of people, evacuation routes, assembly points, need for evac chairs, fire suppression, etc., in case they have any major objections which impact the plan. The library is a key facility for many within Uxbridge and the Borough, which has been evidenced by the rally and response to petitions, with a recent petition collecting 834 signatures. It is important to both residents and council that the proposal is viable and satisfactory, and not something that is shoehorned due to insufficient preparatory work. The library has the traditional role of storing and loaning books and provides a space for study and sanctuary, thus affecting young people's development, the betterment of the individual and enhancement of society. It is a community outreach and social hub, particularly for the young and old, providing meeting places for groups and societies and exhibition space, as well as the new role of warm space in winter. It is therefore important to get this right for both residents and the council. It is apparent from these brief comments that there are fundamental details in this plan and report that have not been quantified, that have been omitted or not considered. In private industry, this would not be acceptable. It needs to be demonstrated that the plan is fit for purpose. It is therefore recommended that either the decision is deferred to rectify to enable accurate and quantifiable data to be presented for consideration with ownership taken for success, or the application be refused because it cannot be supported.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Does any councillors have any questions for the petitioner? No? You may take your seat. Thank you very much, sir. As an applicant, you only have 5 minutes, I'm afraid. Okay. It's Mr. Wallace, is that right? Okay, yes. So
hi there.
Procedure's the same, just keep an eye on the traffic light system.
Okay, so James Wallace from Hunters Architects, we're the council's architect and agent. Principally, I'm here really to answer questions from the members, but I thought I'd just pick up on a couple of things that were said by the gentleman just now. Obviously, one was about space, and just to clarify, obviously the original library, the proposal includes the register office, which incorporates additional space, which we incorporated, and there's also additional storage space in the level 1 and in the basement. The children's library, the intent is obviously to utilise the existing shelving from the Uxbridge Library and furniture, and that will come across through. The space is being reviewed extensively with the Darren Deeks and his team with regards to the space and the 80 square metres that's been provided as part of the children's library. The archives search room, again, we have consulted with the museum and Darren and his team, and there is minor adjustments to the space in those locations, but it's technical. But the thought is that that is actually sufficient in terms of space, and again, there are additional spaces within the layout that's also can be utilised. With regards to disability, obviously we spent quite a lot of time consulting with the council's access officer, Ali Kashmiri, and there are multiple access routes into the library, incorporating both a lift. That lift is being refurbished as part of the proposal. Obviously there is a technical process that will go on once the change of use application, should it be approved this evening, and obviously there's been a lot of focus in terms of the access arrangements within the listed building content. And just to pick up on the fire, obviously there's a wider scope, so there's a fire overall review of the Civic Centre, incorporating both the Middlesex Suite and the further wider offices, and that the consultation is going on ongoing as part of the works that have been already undertaken, so that consultation process is happening. All right, thank you.
Thank you, James. Does any councillors have any questions? No, thank you very much. I'm going to turn the microphone on. Now we go to Councillor Tony Bells. You have 3 minutes. You should know how to speak by now. Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me speak as ward councillor. I'd like to support the petitioner in asking that this application be deferred in order for the information to be in place for it to be fit for purpose, or refused if you're not willing for this. The main issue being that the residents are going from a Rolls-Royce type service that they get with the current library to a service that, despite everyone's best efforts, will be seen as second best. The resident has set out the main issues with the application in some detail, but I would like to highlight a couple of points that really concern me. The first one being access and emergency procedures for those that are disabled, in particular wheelchair users. I have had a reply from the Principal Accessibility Officer to a members' inquiry regarding the library lift. Now remember, one of the principal reasons given to the public regarding closing the High Street Library was the issue of safety, evacuating everyone, including wheelchair users, in the old library, in the lift, and the inability to get certain size of chairs in. I am told that the new library lift doesn't meet the minimum internal dimensions of the British standard. Many groups use the current library that need to use a lift for entering and exiting the building. And has there been any contact being made with any of these groups to try out any emergency procedures? I don't think so. The other point I would like to make is that the report shows that the plan does not have the capacity to cope with current user volumes. In November, some simple counts were taken of the people using the PCs, study spaces and reading chairs, with the numbers being 70 to 80 people at one time. The report states that the plan has a capacity to handle 60 people with a 30-minute turnover. A library is not a swimming pool. How is this plan supposed to work? I'd also like to say a case about the space that's been opened up, that the Citizens Advice Bureau has been moved out and there's got no space now in the Civic Centre. So you've robbed Peter to pay Paul in some respects. Anyway, please can you take these points on board? The residents do want a Rolls-Royce library that we have all got used to. This application lets them down and needs to be deferred at least or refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Wells? Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Bowles. Just a question on the 70 to 80 people last November that were using the equipment. What was that a survey by the petitioner, by yourself as ward councillor, by the council as part of this planning application?
It was by the petitioners when we opposing the library. We did a quick count in just at that stage.
Thank you.
Thank you. No other further questions? Okay, there's some stuff. Petitioners have made some questions and stuff. I'm going to put it over to officers before I put it to the committee, okay? So, I think, Pedro, we wanted obviously about the lift is an issue,
Yeah.
and there's a few other things as well.
Yeah, I think that there are a number of points that have been raised, and I will try to cover each. And I think as a starting point, it's important to note that it's a listed building. So what we did as part of the assessment of the application was to understand the constraints and the opportunities of the site. We understand that there are some constraints in terms of accessibility, but we've worked hard just to resolve this problem by ensuring that there is step-free access either at first floor and second floor. As reviewed and confirmed by the council's access officer, the existing ramps within the building provide and are acceptable means of access for wheelchair users, and also there is just the provision of the lift. The lift, as he confirmed, is marginally short of DDA compliance, but this is by 20 centimeters in terms of depth. As he confirmed, it's capable of accommodating a wheelchair. And as part of that accessibility concern as well, we've also taken a holistic approach in terms of assessing the quality of the space for the library, considering that it is just within one single floor level at level 2 and directly linked to the mobile library through a lift. As an opportunity, we've worked with the highways team just to ensure that there is disabled parking allocated for disabled users. So we've allocated this blue badge base at first floor and second floor. So if you go through That's the second floor level. So we've allocated 3 disabled parking bays for library users, which will be linked, as you can see in that orange line, to the main entrance by step-free access. Also, that in addition to 4 disabled bays at the first floor level, which will be used by the registrar's office. So in terms of, as a balanced approach, I think that the quality of the space, considering that it is within 1 floor level, is acceptable. In terms of capacity, we've looked into this in detail, but it's very difficult to establish how many people visit the site within a given time period. We've come to a guess conclusion as part of liaising with the library, but it's not a final figure in terms of how many people will be using the library. Overall, the floor space has been increased by over 800 square meters, and it's part of just, I think, a holistic approach just to using the services within one site, and that includes the corporate entrance, just to refurbish that space so it's linked. And that's when why the listed building consent application came in, just to make that space, which would require external alterations, much more inviting. So the entrance would be partly enclosed with glazing that it's agreed and acceptable by the conservation and design team, just to make this much more acceptable in terms of design and its presence. So I think those are in terms of quantity and quality and capacity of the space. In terms of other safety concerns, we note those concerns, and we've added a condition requiring a fire safety strategy as part of a condition that we will look at condition stage, and also concerns about antisocial behavior, which we've considered that given the additional movement within the space, there will be a greater level of passive surveillance within the building. However, as a final approach, we've recommended a condition that includes details and some guidelines for tackling antisocial behaviors, such as CCTV and lighting. So I think those are just basically the key points that have been raised. In terms of, I think, the impact that this would have on the town center, it falls within the designation of the town center. It fronts Civic Square. It is perceived as a focal element within the town center, so that the key aspiration and strategic aim is just to bring this to a consolidated service that functions within the whole civic complex.
Actually, I think that's covered. Before we start, just remind committee that we're here on a planning committee basis onto the application. The petition has been heard. We are here to discuss what the plans and how they are affected. On the fire strategy, the actual fire thing is that's a building control. It's not our responsibility. We can only ask for the fire strategy which has been done. And you guys know, especially on my side, how much libraries are important to me. My political career is based on it. So before we go, I've got Councillor Chandale, Councillor Davis and Councillor Gulick. So off you go.
Thank you, Chair. One of the things that's sort of coming out, we've heard lots from the officer's report about amendments. I imagine this is version 2, because everywhere in the report says about amendment, with an amendment and another amendment. So going off this, on page 26, point 3.6, about capacity, and I understand the officers made the point, as well as the petition holder made the point about capacity. Now, I don't understand that comment on page 26, where it says it is not easy. Page 26. Capacity is not easy to identify. Chair, I would strongly disagree with that. What you do is you go into an area, you find out the busiest time of the day or year, whatever, count how many people are there. That is your maximum capacity. And then you work backwards and say, right, this is the capacity I've got to now facilitate. So I believe the officer also mentions the word he guessed or... is this place... We determine what's in front of us. So what is in front of me, what I've heard so far, is all I need to know is, will capacity be... Is there enough capacity there sufficient to what we currently have? I know the petitioner mentioned the increase in the number of population that we have here, but that doesn't necessarily equate to increase in footfall. So could we have a definitive answer, not a guess, what I think, but a definitive answer? Have we got enough capacity there?
Now I'm going to go back as what I was before, and we can't. The thing about the library at the moment is that the capacity, we cannot determine capacity at the moment because of COVID. So before COVID, there was an X amount of people using it, and now after COVID, a lot more people are not using libraries, which is a problem nationwide. So the capacity is there enough room in here to run a library? It's a bigger floor space than any other library in the borough. So yes, I agree with you in the sense that when you're running a business, you go into a shop and you do your retail analysis would say that. But this is sort of like a slightly different animal. I don't know if any officers want to come back on it.
Yeah, I think my comments follow just a bit of an investigation and research and liaising with the head of libraries, who advised a bit on this point, and who considered that it's that the capacity in terms of number is very difficult to calculate on this type of use. Some people come here, can go to the public library for a short, limited time frame, and other people might go and study and stay there for hours. So it's very difficult to establish how many people will use the space within a given time frame. Also considering the different activities, just such as a museum, a learning center, meeting rooms. It's very difficult because you have different activities within the overall F1 floor space. I think that the key point to consider is that the floor space has been maximized and uplifted by over 800 square meters, and it would remain the largest public library within the borough. So in terms of capacity, and as discussed with people who work in the library, it is considered acceptable and compliant with the requirements.
Okay, Councillor Chanel, you got anything else, or can I move on to Councillor Davies? Councillor Davies.
My first point really was going to be to concur with Councillor Chamdell. I find it really concerning that we're only assessing over 30 minutes and not something like 60 to an hour and a half on our figures. I just want that on the record. That I think we need to be looking at that going forward. The second thing that I'd like to add is on the fire assessment. When we bring that back, or when it's done, can we make sure that it's got refuge points included in that, please, for wheelchair access?
Oh, thank you, Chair. So my question is sort of similar around the capacity. So as we understand, calculating the amount of visitors or users, we didn't use any resources to compare. There was no monitoring at any other libraries or compared to anywhere. So also I'm concerned that there is a statement here that says that when we consider the both quality and quantity of a floor space, it's only adequate. There was no reason to describe it as it's excellent or very good, it's just adequate. So I don't think it's satisfactory for the people who are going to use it. So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you. we're getting a little bit lost here. I mean, this is really not a planning concern about capacity. If someone wants to talk to me offline about what libraries have done and how I changed them, I'm more than willing to bore you to death with that. The issue here is we've got to stick to the plans in front of us. The petition has been heard and it's been dealt with before. It has now come for the planning application, that's to change this area into a library. I've been lenient with the committee, but I'm not going to be lenient anymore. So, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. No, it's a very good point. If this was a house application, we wouldn't question the applicant's choice on the size of the bedrooms. It's kind of out of scope. My question was just on the accessibility piece, so that was picked up by the ward councillor, by the petitioner. If we can just run through here visually, maybe with the red dot on, if you are a wheelchair user, just for the benefit of everybody here, what are the different ways in which you can get in and out of the building?
Yes, so if you see here the first floor plan, if you see the proposed first floor plan and this yeah, so you see this red access routes. So these are the step-free access points to the first floor, which will be directly linked to a lift, which is here, to access the second floor. So these are existing step-free access routes to the building, which would provide step-free access. That's at first floor. In addition, you see here the 4 allocated parking bays which would serve this space, which is the registrar's office, which would also provide step-free access via this route here in orange. So if you go to the second floor, which is here, there is an existing ramp which is here in orange, and this will be, that existing ramp will provide access to the second floor. It's also worth noting that as part of the listed building consent, the doors would be replaced with sliding doors and with much more easy and accessible ways of accessing the space. That's at second floor, and then you have also the 3 disabled parking bays, which we considered as an opportunity to address those concerns that were raised as part of the first consultation process, which provides also step-free access to the library. So,
okay, so
yeah,
just
and finally, there's an existing here through the existing corporate entrance. There's an existing ramp here, which provides access to the corporate entrance, and all this space would be refurbished with new doors, new screens, glazing screens that would provide access as well to all these community facilities.
Thank you. So in terms of ease of accessibility in and out of the library, there's 2 ramps, one at the north there and one just through the corporate entrance, both straight into the library.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, officers, to explain everything. My little bit of concern about the left, like you said, you resurface the left, but it's possible we can install the new left for the disabled peoples and they use the facilities.
What do you say? Is it a new ramp, did you say?
Lift.
New lift?
Yeah.
The lift is going to be refurbished or renewed?
The lift is being refurbished at the moment. That's an ongoing process, but that's that's part of the ongoing works as part of the refurbishment of the internal space.
Councillor Sansapuri.
Yeah, no, sorry. As the officer said in the report, there are only 3 parking spaces for the disabled people. And are they sufficient 3 or what for the other user?
I'll answer that, Republic. Yes, it is, because there is none at the moment at the existing library. So they've got 3 extra. Okay. Anything else? Councillor Davis.
Can I just get some clarity on the covered walkway at the moment? So we're going to be putting windows in there, yeah? So it's going to be made an internal room. That's from my understanding. So this section here.
Those 2 windows that overlook the
Yeah.
So those windows will be, openings will be enclosed.
Yeah.
And that space there would be enclosed with new screening and double glazing, and the access door also would be replaced with new modern sliding doors.
Okay. No, that's fine. Thank you.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is despite maybe some concerns, I think this is a good application in the sense of us investing in our libraries across the borough at a time when a lot of local authorities are closing them down, moving it into a central community hub location. So in terms of both agenda items, I'm happy to move that we grant permission in line with office recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Davis.
Chairman, yeah, I would be happy to second. I don't think this is the area. This is a change of use application.
Yeah.
So providing everything as discussed, the fire report and everything, I'd be more than happy to remove.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you made, Councillor Bennett, that local authorities across the country are closing libraries. We seem to still keep all of ours, so which is really good, apart from one that was in a school, which we won't talk about. We'll move on from that. So I've been proposed and seconded. Can I have a show of hands, those in favour with this application, please? I'll take them both, the same person for both of them. So first one first. Can I have a show of hands? Okay, so against or abstaining? Against. Okay. 3 against. Okay, so that's carried. On the second part of the listed building, can I have a show of hands on that? Proposed and seconded. 4. And against, obviously, again. Hello? Opposition? Abstaining. The abstaining on the second bit, but the first bit. That's going to be really confusing now for the electorate. Okay, thank you very much. So that's been passed. And we will now move on to item number 9. Who's taking me for that one? Is it Chris? Of course, there you go, Chris, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 8 relates to the garage site at Hillingdon Close. As shown on the screen, the proposed development comprises the erection of 2 3-bedroom detached dwellings with associated parking and amenity space following the demolition of the existing garages. Before taking members through the presentation, I'd like to mention that whilst there's no addendum for this item, I will provide a verbal update to members. Table 1 on page 83 of the committee report includes details of a consultation which has been undertaken with SSE, who are a utility provider and own a substation located in the southeastern corner of the site outside of the red line. Whilst the main access to the substation is located on Cowley Mill Road, SSE had the right of access across part of the land owned by the applicant. SSE were consulted and advised of the development application on the 27th of the 6th, 2024. There was a response. This response stated that the LPA would be in receipt of comments within 5 working days. No comments have been received to date. However, the formal consultation period does not expire until the 17th of the 7th, 2024, which is obviously tomorrow. As such, if comments are received on the 17th of the 7th, 2024, it is requested that delegated authority be given to the Director of Planning, Regeneration and Environment to consider the comments in consultation with the Chairman. In addition, condition 10, which is the landscaping condition, is to be amended to include a maintenance plan for the soft landscaped area on the land subject to the utility provider's right of access. I'll now move on to the presentation. Here is a location plan with the site denoted in red. The development site is located at the end of Hillingdon Close. The cul-de-sac adjoins Cowley Mill Road. Here is the location plan with the site shown within the red line. The site comprises of 20 numbered garages. They are single story in height and they end on hard standing parking spaces and verges, with hard standing being the dominant feature. The site is located within a residential area comprising of 2 terraces and a semi-detached properties, in addition to the 3-storey blocks to the north of the site and commercial buildings to the west. Here is a constraints plan. It should be noted that whilst the site is located within a designated industrial area, this part of the area is residential in character. Therefore, it is not considered that the proposal presents a policy conflict on this matter. I'll take you through the plans. Here we have an existing block plan. Here we have a proposed block plan with the 2 dwellings denoted in grey within the red line boundary. Here we have an existing site plan. You'll note the substation in this corner here. The access which I referred to in the opening part of the presentation is actually along this section here, although this is taken from an OS map. It doesn't actually denote how wide that access is, but this is the main access in. What you'll note in the photos in a moment is that this section here is completely boxed off by palisade fencing, and this actually does form a side or rear elevation of the substation. So there is actually no access into the substation from this point. Here we have a proposed site plan. Existing northwest and southeast elevations, existing northeast and southwest elevation, existing sections. Here we have the proposed ground floor plan. As shown on the plans for each unit, the units would be provided with 2 car parking spaces which complies with the London Plan standards. Here we have a first floor plan. You'll note there are no windows within the side elevations on plot 1, which is the northern plot, given that the separation distance between those windows and the properties to the north is approximately 17 metres. There are no direct overlooking views into other windows within the site itself, so that means that plot 1 and plot 2 do not have habitable room windows which face each other. Here we have the proposed northeast and southwest elevations. You'll note that the 2 properties are 2 stories in height. Proposed northwest and southeast elevations. Some section plans. Here's an existing aerial view. The large building to the left-hand side is the industrial building which I mentioned earlier. And here you have the 2 dwellings which are proposed within its context. Here we have a bird's eye view. You'll note the substation is down here. There is an access point along here. There's some photos of the existing garages. So again, you've got substation here. You'll note that is a blank facade, palisade fencing around the outside. Again, some closer images. Here's some 2-story properties to the south of this photo with the commercial building on the left. Closer look at the substation here. And these are the flatted blocks to the north of the site. They're just north of plot 1. In terms of the principle of development, the development plan offers significant support for the redevelopment and utilisation of brownfield sites such as this for the residential redevelopment. Not only would the site provide additional housing, but it would, given that the two properties that are proposed are 3-bed units, the development would also contribute to meeting an identified need for family-sized housing across the borough. A contemporary design has been adopted, with each property featuring an L-shaped layout, a gable-ended roof with a 2-story projecting gable to the front. A mixture of window sizes have been carefully placed within the front elevation to add articulation. Whilst contemporary properties are not a prevailing feature within the street scene, there are a mixture of property types and designs within the area, which means that the development would not appear out of character. Furthermore, the 2 dwellings have been set away from the boundaries of the site and are more intimate in scale, bulk and mass, resulting in a development which does not appear to be overly dominant within its setting. In terms of neighbour amenity, the dwellings benefit from a separation distance in excess of 21 metres of the nearest habitable room windows to the east of the site on Cowley Mill Road and approximately 17 metres from the flatted block to the north. As there are no primary habitable room windows at the upper floor level for the dwelling facing the flatted block to the north, no privacy concerns have been raised. Furthermore, Given the large separation distance and the intimate scale of the development, no concerns are raised with regards to the potential overshadowing or loss of light. As set out within the committee report, the development would provide a standard of living accommodation which exceeds both the London and local plan requirements with regards to both external and internal living spaces. Turning to highway matters, officers have confirmed with the applicant that 90% of the garages are vacant at present, and this is partly due to the design of the garages not being fit for purpose to store a modern day vehicle. As such, the principle of demolishing the existing garages is considered to be acceptable. The site is located within an area which does not benefit from a PTR rating and is not subject to parking controls or a parking management scheme. The development would result in the removal of 6 car parking spaces which are located close to the access into the garage site, which, as stated, does not benefit from a PTR rating, meaning that there could be a higher dependency on the car to travel to and from the site. The parking stress survey has been undertaken, which highlights the potential displacement of 6 cars on the street would likely result in a parking capacity reaching over 95%. However, the local authority has consulted with the local highway authority, and whilst a parking stress survey results does indicate that the displacement of 6 vehicles on the street could result in parking within close reach of its capacity, this can be mitigated through the delivery of a parking management scheme, thus installing parking control measures. As such, a proposed head of term to secure a financial contribution to fund the implementation of a parking management scheme within Hilton Close is set out on page 78 of the committee report. Members will note the implementation of such a scheme is subject to residents' petition in the first instance, and the application has not drawn any public response, including objections on relating to parking stress. Each of the dwellings would be provided with 2 parking spaces, and adequate cycle parking and EVCP provision is to be secured. Finally, as mentioned in the verbal update, the site is located adjacent to an electricity substation. Whilst access to the substation is not provided from within the site, and there is a palisade fence separating the shared boundary with the application site, it has been identified that the utility provider has right of access over the land to the east of Plot 2. The land subject to the right of access is owned by the applicant, and the proposed plans indicate that this area will be landscaped, and it will be conditions to provide a maintenance plan for this part of the site. In summary, the design of the development accords with the relevant development plan policies. Whilst the development could result in potential parking overspill, this would be minor, and sufficient mitigation is to be secured within the legal agreement. A potential harm arising from the development would be outweighed by the benefits arising from the provision of new family-sized housing on a brownfield site. It is for these reasons, and those set out in more detail within the committee report, that the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Councillor Chandel, Councillor Davis and Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, officers. Very good report. Straightforward, I think. Not too much to discuss. Garages, 90% in use. That's 2 used. I remember these garages. I used to have one of these in the old days. I could just about get through when I was a young, fit lad. There's no chance I'll get in one of those now. Funding for a parking management scheme, because that seems to be the issue when we put new buildings up, which is covered. It's out in the open as in the sticks, so there's no sort of constraints on any other builders nearby, so that's ticked off. My only concern would be this substation. We've seen them in and around. They're not kept up very well. They're overgrown when you go to, especially around in my ward, they're overgrown, not looked after. Whether we can have something on those grounds that some sort of condition that's got to be maintained just loosely, but if not, I don't think that we need to spend too much time on this, and I would support officer's recommendation, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just to really quickly clarify, the substation is outside of the site, so it's not within the scope of the application. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Davis.
One brief one. The flood risk, it says it's open to surface water flooding. Has it been decided on what material is going to be used yet? I see that they're stating that they're going to raise the ground by 450. Have we looked at the impact on the surrounding area in that? So if it's flooding on surface water and we raise it up by 450, it's going to flood the properties within the area. So I'd be interested to know what material we're going to put on the floor.
Yeah, so in terms of the material, I mean, it's completely hard standing at the moment. The material that we would be looking to secure by way of the landscaping condition would be an improvement to what's there at the moment. You'll note that whilst there is an increase in floor levels, there is a sufficient amount of, or a significant increase in soft landscaping, so that's a natural mitigation to any potential flood risk.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy with that. I'd be happy to second officer's recommendations.
Okay. Fine, thank you. So, close the second. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. I support the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gillick.
My question also concerns the flooding and drainage. So there was assessment submitted, flood risk assessment. Was it forwarded to the Environmental Agency, or because of the size of the plot wasn't necessary to comment on it?
Go on, Chris. Go on, Chris.
Yeah, so we're only required to notify the Environment Agency as a statutory consultee if it's in flood zone 2 or 3. This site's not in anywhere near flood zone 2 or 3, so they wouldn't be consulted, no.
Councillor Sensipuri.
In very short, I think it is a good application. It is the best use of the land which is not presently used. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm proposing second to show hands. All those in favour of this application? That's approved, Alicia. Thank you very much. That brings our meeting to tonight. Nice and short and sweet. September won't be so short and sweet, so be warned. And have a great holiday and a great summer, and see you when you get back. Thank you.